Welcome to Toffee TV. It is live at 5. We've got John Blaine with us, so just bombard him with questions on business. He absolutely loves it.
Oh, he's thrilled.
Loves it.
He's thrilled.
Wants to know all your financial issues, just anything. Like if you want to like change your gas supplier, John will help you out with that. Or your mobile phone if you want a new one. It's like Witch magazine, honestly. He'll sort all that out. New tyres for your car. Ask John, he knows.
What did I say today about him?
Yeah. Costco, pizza, slice, or hot dog. John will give you the lowdown on.
John's not a hot dog man. I don't think.
I have opinions.
He has opinions though.
Steak burgers, wasn't it?
Was it? Yeah. We had the hot dogs, didn't we?
No, I had the steak, but I just followed the main.
Did you only eat half of that as well?
Don't you remember you finished it?
I didn't finish that. I wouldn't finish that because you physically put teeth into it. Pizza's different.
My cousin, who you may or may not know, Kevin, right, and his son, right, Ethan. And what Ethan was looking forward most to going to match at the weekend was a foot-long hot dog.
Was the hot dog?
Yeah, because that's what little kids want.
Love it, yeah.
That's what entices.
I got Zach one once and it didn't end well, so he's not getting.
What do you mean it didn't end well?
It ended.
Did it fall on top of him?
It was all over him. He had sauce and everything. Yeah,
so his day starts with the hot dog he wants, and it finishes the next day when he sees that when they were celebrating down in front of the family enclosure, whatever it was, that he's on the telly.
He's on the thing.
So many ended up with the celebrations, didn't they? With photos,
Eugene says Newcastle name Longstaff place. They do. Toffee boy, hey guys. Who in the current squad would fit in most with Dutch's gang in Red Dead Redemption 2, Pet? I mean, that's the kind of question you want to open up with. That's from Jack Wheeler. Fair play.
Is that like the starter for 10, is it?
Fabian Delph, because you know he'd do the dirty on everybody. You absolutely know it.
He makes Michael look good.
Yeah, you know he'd do the dirty on you and turn his back on Arthur and stuff, so...
All right, fair enough. There you go. Gary Ward says, Hardy J. Fearon.
It's only a game, John. It's only a game.
Lee Ties Dar says, good evening. Steve Hardy says, afternoon, looking forward for another hour and a bit of entertainment. Rich, you're not first. He's put even in first and he's like 7th.
Yeah.
Second, there's nowhere, Rich, remember that.
Half of the course.
AJ says, been watching Parliament all day, impressed with Zara Sultana, MP for Coventry. Reminds me of an English AOC and Sharon. I mean, AJ, thanks for the political update.
To be fair, I was watching a bit of it before. Everyone's standing up and having their viewpoint on obviously what's going on in the world. Okay. It's about 3 weeks too late, but that's fine.
There you go. Lee Size Darcy has seen a few comments about how well you carried yourself on the Sky.
Oh, God.
1.8 million views now.
Just for you?
Apparently so. I don't know.
Have you done the time slot on the thing?
Yeah,
time coded you?
Just me.
I've only seen the bit where you were having a bit of banter with Roy Keane and then Neville answered your question.
Yeah.
You were on more than that, were you?
Yeah. If you watch the whole thing, like a lot of these beautiful people have, John, you'd see the whole debate.
Did anyone else get a word in?
I did.
About Jamie Carragher, trying to give me stick about Everton.
Really?
He said, how long's it been now?
The professional Liverpool fan?
Yeah, well, that's what I called him.
Did you? Oh, brilliant.
And he said, how long's it been now since Everton last won something? I said, Jamie, you should know, you've never thrown in last time you won. You're not now, are you? And all this, like, he come over at the end. It's right. What did he say?
That's great to see you, mate.
To be honest, that's exactly what he did say. That's
great to see you.
And I won't take you on again.
Don't mention me tattoo.
I reckon his appearance fee was higher than yours.
Yeah, I think so, slightly. AJ says, sad news about Sean Lock today.
Oh, terrible.
Yeah, totally
awful news.
Terrible news.
I didn't even know he was sick. So, awful news, yeah. Mike said, if it meant Everton would have a bigger transfer kitty next summer, would you forego this summer's transfers?
I think we have, haven't we?
We have, yeah.
I think we have foregoing.
John, I mean, just briefly on that, because I mean, you've done this for, as Michael knows, because he's your patron. We've done it really in depth, but Everton not buying anyone this summer, will it make a huge difference next summer in terms of having more cash available if we don't kind of go? I guess if we don't add to the debt, isn't it? Because we just spent now.
We all know there's the guys out there with big spreadsheets and they'll be better off to answer the question. But all you have to remember, of course, is, again, it's going to change, right? The rules are going to change. So, and if it turns out to be things like salary caps and what have you, you might think that the bigger deals are going to get done this summer so that players can move and get there inflated above the salary cap tax, because it can't be retrospective. Well, maybe it can, but it shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be, yeah.
But you'd have to look at, if this is year 3 in a 3-year cycle, you have to look at year 1, don't you? Because year 1 will fall off.
It will, yeah.
And then next year will be year 3, this is year 2, and last year was year 1.
Yeah.
And the worst of the years, the last ones,
the
you
last
know?
one.
So it might not make a massive difference, but selling a player makes a massive difference. So if you can sell a player in this window for, you know, whatever, 20, 30 million quid, or whatever you do result in a 20, 30 million uplift, you know, as we spoke about on Patreon, that the amortization, the way it all works, you can actually buy some high value players with that money,
Just that money,
and then you can do it again next year, and so on.
And so on,
Then
yeah.
that's what you do.
That's the way to do
Okay.
it, yeah.
I just think they're being pragmatic and saying how much value, you know, in competence terms, would buying that player bring to the squad, and if it's not high enough, you know, the value judgment between the spending of the money and what they bring isn't enough.
What do you think of what they're saying about this new wage cap? What are you thinking of bringing?
I've only seen what you've seen, which is, you know, journalists obviously getting briefed that we're thinking about it. Certainly when we spoke to Everton Football Club, and particularly Sasha, who was his area of responsibility, I suppose, he expected October time to start seeing what the shape of these changes would look like. He would always re-emphasise, which is sad actually, people, that FFP doesn't apply to us because we're not playing in Europe. Yeah, but the way it does apply is that there's a relationship between what the Premier League do through profit and sustainability and what UEFA do, and he expects the UEFA stuff to be out first. So we have to say, don't we, if UEFA go with a salary cap, so will the Premier League.
Premier League will follow.
Oh, okay.
I suspect the Premier League might have thought they wanted to do it anyway, but that just hangs you out to dry. If the rest of Europe don't do it. But again, that goes cyclic and say, well, if you're going to buy players, and if you're particularly, you know, high profile players, do it before a salary cap comes in this country. Because if you say you bought, say Messi, stupid example, say City got Messi and paid him stupid money a week before a salary cap was applied in the Premier League, and then the Premier League applied one and Europe didn't, they've already got him. If Europe didn't apply one and the Premier League did, you'd never get players like that because there's always someone else who could pay more money.
Can pay more, yeah. True.
So salary cap has got to be part of a package, though. It can't just be a salary cap. I wouldn't have thought.
We've always advocated for it, though, haven't we?
Yeah.
Because it's just so. How can it be? Financial fair play just isn't fair. You know, I know it's fair in terms of like the free market and stuff, and bring in what you buy, you spend what you earn and that kind of thing. But because it didn't have an official, like you're saying there, you get the deals done before something starts. Because it didn't have like an official start date where everyone was level. It allowed people to, like you just said, stock before, and we, you know, became a victim after. And I
think, you know, Evertonians in general, I think need to, you know, STFU on this subject to a large degree. We're where we are because we're inept at spending the money we had. Yeah. Not because there's rules there, right? Because we've demonstrated.
I've got
okay, fair
counterpoint
but
here.
I think we spoke about this very briefly last time I was in, that the amount of money we have spent, and it's taken us this long to start being really concerned about breaking the rules, almost suggests there's enough wriggle room in the rules for you actually to lift yourself up to further up the league than we are.
Yeah.
Okay. And we also know that there's other clubs with lower turnovers, spent less money, who've performed better over the last 3 to 5 years. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with what you say, and we do have an owner who's prepared to invest. And again, Sasha had said that he expects the new rules to not penalise owners who are prepared to invest. Hence, it should be part of a package. Yeah. You know, fundamentally, if Farhad Moshiri or one of his mates wants to say, you know what, I'm just going to throw 500 million quid at this, right? There you go. Do what you like with it. Yeah. They should be able to. Really. It's when they are loans that can be called in, or when you're actually, and if you think about it, more like Man United do it with their ownership, loan the business with debt. You know, they bought the goddamn business with money that fundamentally Man United as a club have paid for Glazers to own them. Yeah. You know, how's that work? Yeah. You know, that sort of stuff. And so it's a bit complicated. But I think the thing that takes time is just there's so much vested interest that trying to find something that provides for a level playing field for everybody is difficult because the haves don't want to the have-nots come up and pissing on their parade, really.
Yeah.
Anyway, your counter-argument is...
No. All I was going to say is, and you're right, we've wasted money. We've had the opportunity, and I would never say any different. It's but the other thing is, though, we're not playing on the level playing field because others who wasted money were allowed to correct it, and Everton.
Two wrongs don't make a right.
No, but it's like saying, well, yeah, you can have this big pot of money, but you can only spend that, but they can still keep spending it. Man United have £1.5 billion in debt, and have just spent 130 million this summer. Everton apparently have got no debt because the owner owns it and blah 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 blah. Can't spend anything.
Yeah, but you personally, in ratio terms, are in more debt than Man United. Yeah, because you have a mortgage and stuff like that. The ability to service debt.
But you're playing in the same competition as this.
Well, yeah. But you call it a competition. Let's call it an industry. Some banks are bigger than other banks. Some car dealerships are bigger than other car dealerships. Some football clubs are bigger than other football clubs, right? So if you want to get into a regime whereby, simplify it, every single team has 25 players.
Yeah.
Every single team can only spend £50 million on salary.
Yeah.
And so on.
Yeah.
Then it'll lose some of its edge, right? Because then what we'll start talking about is, oh my God, Manchester United have made £500 million profit. And it's all gone to the United States, because that's where the shareholders are. Because, the the distribution of the wealth of the Premier League is it's distorted. As we all know, we'll talk it goes to players, we'll talk it goes to agents, and so on. If you reduce the costs and control what can be spent to the point where the business has just become profitable, the money will then go to the shareholders instead. Yeah. So, do you really want hundreds of millions of pounds disappearing to China, to the Middle East, to North America, wherever? Because even though it's messed about a bit now, ultimately, when that money starts circulating through transfers and things like that, it does trickle down eventually into the lower reaches of the league. So if you want to correct that, then it's a complicated game to figure out what's the best way. But maybe one of the ways is, back round the loop again, is limitations on number of foreign players in your league, that sort of thing, because then what happens to France then, with 2 or 3 clubs worth playing for? The French league might become more vibrant, but it'll be anemic compared to having PSG in the Champions League, So it's difficult for UEFA because all roads lead back to the Premier League will end up being top of the stack, potentially. And didn't they invent the goddamn rules in the first place because they were fearful of the strength of the Premier League? So I'm not convinced personally, and I've not seen any details, I don't think anyone has, but I'm not convinced personally that redistribution, the alleged wealth of football clubs, so that instead of agents and players getting it, shareholders get it. Great, I'm a shareholder, right? A few shares, right? And dividends are paid and so on. Then is that the best way? I don't know. I don't think so.
Don't know. Arsenal have...
But they have to come up with a mechanism which to correct the ills of the past. And maybe, just maybe, that's it has some historical precedence about it. Maybe clubs who are not in the Champions League are allowed to spend more money than those who are.
It's got to be addressed one way. Arsenal have bought Odegaard for €40 million, so they're still spending. I don't know how, because they had to have a loan last summer for 175 million.
That was cash flow, though.
And sack 55.
But that was cash flow.
Well, they're spending and money they haven't got, so it's come from somewhere. Because they're buying Ramsdale, a keeper, for 30 million as well. So they spent about 200 million this summer.
It's not about... Sorry, let's just stop a sec, right?
No, I'm fuming. I'm still fuming.
It's not about...
We can't buy a right back.
Hang on a second. We can't buy a right back because of proximity to breaching of the regulations, right? They can buy these players because they're not going to be in breaches of the regulations because they've got 60,000 seats a stadium, where the cheapest seat is probably significantly more expensive than our most expensive seat, if you forget about boxes and things. Therefore, they just like Man United, and to a lesser extent City, but their revenues are getting bigger all the time. So that's what brings them away from breaking the rules, right? What's wrong with one of the treacherous 6 doing that is that they claimed they were on hard streets, they took government money, or they wanted to, they got rid of staff, they wanted to and then they'll splash the cash
on players.
And that is when you get into, if you're doing fan-led reviews, some of it's got to be around morals and stuff like that, about what the people who sit in that beautiful stadium behind you, right, what they think is right and what they think is wrong. And you've heard me bullshit about this before because I've struggled in the past to explain it to chief execs at Everton. There's a bloody big difference between doing things right and doing the right thing, right? Arsenal are doing things right if they're not in breach of regulations, but are they doing the right thing when a year ago they were claiming, oh my God, pandemic, we're in deep, we need government money.
Gunnosaurus sacked.
And they still spent 75 million on Thomas Partey. So,
anyway, that guy's not worth that money anyway, is he?
He's done to it.
Jay Fearon says, gotta say yesterday's live didn't half make me chuckle. I'm fascinated with Ned's blissful ignorance of where places are. I think.
Oh, come on, tell me I missed this.
I think taking him on these local trips is a must.
We are going to take. So we had a chat with Ned yesterday, and it's not. He's not stupid. He's just innocent.
He is so
There's
innocent.
a difference. He's
naive or innocent.
Let's be nice, because we're on YouTube. If we weren't, we might say something different.
Yeah.
He's innocent, right? So we had a chat with him about certain place. We asked him if he'd ever been through the Mersey Tunnel.
All right. Okay.
And he said no.
Wow.
But
You've been on a ferry? The Mersey ferry? Been a ferry across the Mersey?
Go to Wirral, just used to get on the underground.
He didn't know where certain places were. He didn't know what was on the Wirral. Didn't know New Brighton was on the Wirral, even though
I thought it was on the Wirral. I didn't know the difference between on the Wirral and on the Wirral line. I just thought Brighton was on the Wirral line. You get the underground.
Brighton?
But
New Brighton,
hang on.
sorry.
Because
Brighton.
I call you innocent and then you say something and you sound stupid.
Yeah.
So
Well, I didn't know.
Stay innocent.
no, stay innocent.
Uneducated.
No, just
I wouldn't
innocent.
say that. Innocent. Not
Stop
uneducated.
digging.
There's a hole here.
Just innocent.
So
There's a difference.
there's a
Just
lot of
innocent.
places. So what we thought we're going to do is one day is we're going to take Ned on a drive around like Liverpool and see like if he understands where things are.
Taking him through the tunnel.
Yeah.
We're going to have a camera on him to
Yeah.
see the face when he's going through the tunnel. But because we were having a great conversation,
This
and then all of a
like,
sudden,
this sounds like how Carl got started.
it is. It's exactly how Carl got started. And at one stage, he said, "So
You're going to film it all.
is Litherland on the Wirral?" Having just told us he'd been by Litherland the other week.
No,
when
I
he was
know.
playing.
I knew Netherland was in North
You
Liverpool.
knew where? You knew what?
I knew
Netherland.
Litherland was in
yeah.
North Liverpool.
You didn't though.
My dad was saying, "Oh, you should
No,
come
no.
watch."
But the problem is, because he knows a place that's on the Wirral, and there's a place called the same name in Litherland. He thought
He thought
they were the
two
same
the-
places.
I got really
So,
confused.
so basically, we're going to take him on a bit of a drive with the camera and just see how he reacts to certain things.
It'd be
It'd be
interesting.
Or blindfold him. Where are we
Fascinating.
now?
Where are we?
No, I just want to see his face when he goes through the Mersey Tunnel. I don't know why. I just do.
I told him the day. I was like, "Oh, lads, I booked Chester Zoom for Bank Holiday Monday."
That was
I'm so
what started
excited.
it. Because
And
you
Pedal
come
was
in.
like,
Have you been
"Yeah,
over
well,
the bridges?
the Runcorn Bridge?
Yeah, which one?
The one you have to pay for, which are now with Void. I just go through
both
Banky.
of
Both you have to pay for.
Both for
Oh,
now.
I'm not sure. I'd go.
God, there's going to be electric drop for the Euros.
I've been over them, but now since you had to pay with them, I'll go through Banky, so I don't have to pay.
Oh, you tight ass.
Save a bit of money.
Fair enough of his.
So he
he's a young lad.
basically sent us a message saying he was going to Chester Zoo, but the way he wrote it was like he
going
booked
to Disney
Florida.
World. Yeah, it was like he was going to the Magic Kingdom.
It was amazing.
John, I told him, I said, if we go to Florida and you come, Ned, we'll take you to Animal Kingdom, which will be
Have
like,
you got a passport?
You can't believe
Got a
it.
passport, yeah.
You can't
Have
believe
you
it's
used
like-
it?
Say, well, it's probably run out by now. Might have to get a new one. Might have to.
If we go to Florida, by the way, I am not going in the queue with him.
No.
For the to
anything.
get through immigration.
I might not get-
No, to get through immigration.
I'm going in
I
the
might
queue
not
with
get
them to
through
get
co-
in the park, mate.
I might not get through customs. What you doing now on your trip? I'm just looking for wild snakes.
Well, snake. Snake.
But the flip side of that is he's going to take us on a tour of St. Helens.
Which will be incredible.
Mate, if you were
Sure, yeah.
15, 20 years older, maybe longer, you'd have been a superstar with Chris Evans. You'd be one of those guys in his studio.
You'd be loving it, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd be loving it.
You just had the
Chris
wrong
Evans,
time.
right.
Like
Well, I mean-
Phil
So you
McCauley.
got these two
It's
instead.
the right time for us.
No. He is for us, yeah. Gary Walsh at Everton got mentioned on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert last night.
Roger Bennett was on, yeah.
Phil
And he said how
McCauley.
to wind up a red. It was John Oliver, how to wind them up.
Okay. Phil McCauley said, oh, hi, Toffee TV. If you had to pick a pair of wide players between Kanchelskis and Limpar or Pinar and Hammers, who would you guys have?
First two.
Yeah, the first two.
Yeah.
They
Also,
actually did it.
yeah, and he said, for me, it'd be Kanchelskis and Limpar. Also, with Sasha leaving, do you think maybe he's been a scapegoat for the poor financial position we are in?
No, not at all.
I mean, that was short and sweet. That was the shortest answer.
Tell you more tomorrow on Patreon on the
Yeah.
show with John.
Oh, the business. We're doing a board thing tomorrow, yeah. George says, can't wait for the Arsenal All or Nothing documentary. Hearing it's airing on Comedy Central. In all seriousness, do you think Everton will have the facilities and the minerals to do one of those?
We've talked about this before, haven't we? I'd be gobsmacked if we're not on one of those shows as
Would
to
you
build.
know? Would you think Everton would expose themselves to that
I
level
think the
of
Everton that it will be
embarrassment?
in the lead up to Bramley Moor has to be prepared to do it.
Should be. It should be. Whether it does.
See,
is a
I mean, I just don't.
It's the
You
biggest.
know what I think? No, but Amazon been paid 15 million quid, and Amazon retain editorial control of it.
Right.
So if they don't like something, there's nothing the club can do. I don't think Everton would ever.
This Everton can't, but it should.
No, I agree.
All right.
I agree.
I think it'd be an incredible story.
Everton
That year.
Everton should be in position to document everything themselves that year. Everything.
You know, if we have like, it's a bit like on the old 1984 and all that old speak and stuff, right? If you had old Everton and new Everton, and we sit here now thinking about what would new Everton look like, and it'd be open, transparent, engaging, all those sorts of things, right? When you do that change stuff as a change program, part of what you have to do, and lots of organisations do it, is what can we do that old Everton would never do?
Yeah.
And do that.
That's what should happen.
And they could do that right now if they wanted to. You know, if there's something Everton fans, my God, that I don't know, they're letting that happen. You know, they're changing, and and that could be one of those moments.
Well, I'd love it. I'd love to see it. I've no problem. I love those kind of documentaries, and I've got no problem airing dirty, linen in the public. That to me is fine. It's part of the course. But I just don't think Everton.
How many of them have you watched?
I've watched all of them. The American football ones. I've watched the
quite a few.
the All Black ones.
Because I've only watched the Tottenham one and the City one.
Oh, I watch all of them, John.
There's some really.
There's one on Netflix about a Spanish cycling team, and it's all in Spanish, and I've watched it.
Oh, so
I find sports documentaries a million times better than sport.
One of the best was Six Dreams.
Six Dreams
which
is
is on
incredible.
Amazon Prime, about six. It's about Spanish football.
Yeah.
all right.
But there's six
Different
six
stories.
different stories in it. It's brilliant.
Different
Atletico
people at different
Bilbao
clubs.
and
No, I started watching that.
It's brilliant.
Too
Ibar.
many things to do to watch it.
That's
Is that the
really
one where
good.
they basically shows what the club's really like from a
Show
fan
like
perspective and stuff?
Ibar, they show Inaki Williams from Athletic Bilbao, Saul Noguez from
Atletico.
from Atletico, and people like that, and they follow the different things.
The Mexican
The
and Mexican.
Mexican, yeah.
It's funny, I know it's
absolutely
it's going off at a little bit of a tangent, but you know when James did his thing with the Aletti sort of motto,
Yeah.
right? So first thing I see when I see this is I go and translate it, and I go, that's their thing.
Yeah.
Sort of like, so cut that out of Twitter, wasn't it? I saw it on Twitter.
Yeah, that was Twitter.
And go onto Facebook, which is the only place where a guy worked with me in Portugal who's Spanish, Javier Delgado, right? Yeah. And we used to have great chats.
Sounds like a cracking left-footed right winger.
We used to have cracking conversations because it was like Atletico and Real Madrid, Everton, Liverpool, sort of thing. Oh. And then they won the league. So I just said, on the way to you, right? And he's got an American wife, so he speaks good English. But sometimes I think he thinks, I'll put it in Spanish and then I'll just translate it. So what I got from him was, interesting. His Real Madrid heritage means he's not good for us. My dear, which is what he said to me. So his view is it's all bollocks because players don't go from Real Madrid to Atletico.
Well, last year he was close to joining Atletico Madrid, but they felt it was an issue because it was from Real. Real weren't happy.
So going via Everton.
Well, that was what I was thinking.
Steve McMahon.
Yeah, the full Steve McMahon route.
Yeah.
No, I absolutely love sports documentaries, and if they're done right, I always
the fly on the wall stuff.
Well, I've always had this thing, John and Basil know this is the best way to look after footballers is to humanise them.
Totally.
If you care about a footballer, you care about a manager, there's less chance that you will turn on those people.
Totally agree.
Because you know their insights. And when I watch these documentaries, I can't help but find myself rooting for these people in real life. You know, I was in Wales and I was looking for something to watch on Netflix, and I seen this. It come up on my Netflix thing, season 2 of this documentary, and I was like, "What's season 1?" It was about movie star. Went and watched it, and then when I was watching the bits of the Tour de France this year, I found myself looking for these people and where they've gone.
Yeah.
And I'm suddenly rooting for these fellas because I know a little bit about them. You know, you've seen them at the worst when they've fallen off and they're covered in all kinds and the things they've gone through and all that. And this is where for me documentaries like that are perfect because if it was an Everton thing and suddenly you're seeing the hardships of a player or a manager, then how can you want... There's a Crystal Palace one that's on Amazon Prime about how they survived.
Oh, yeah.
How they survived, now they come back. And you're watching, you just think, people like Sahar and Yannick Bolasie are just wonderful.
Because some of those people, right, for want of a phrase, are genuine, aren't they?
Yeah.
And some of them have immediate image, which is not quite as what they really are. And so the thing I remembered about, I don't know about you guys, but the thing I remembered about Tottenham was how Levy come across as a bit of a plonker, right? And he's supposed to be this super deal maker, and it's, ooh, Jose, ooh, you know, sort of thing.
Do you know what I took from that, though? Funny enough, at the weekend, the kid who started right back for them at the weekend.
For Spurs?
Yeah. Well, he's in the Spurs one. What's his name?
Tanganga. Yeah.
And he's in it, and he's trying to break through. And I was watching the game on Sunday going, I'm made up
He's
for
there.
him. I'm made up for him. Because he came across so nice and so down
So you're
to
basically
earth.
a good guy's made it.
And I was like, yeah, that's brilliant, that. And I was... that's
he's a nice lad. His family...
yeah, and they were dead nice.
It
And
was
when you
really,
watch the
really
Crystal
good as
Palace
well.
ones, Zaha and
Really
Bolasie
good
come
against
across
City.
exactly the same way. They helped.
Bolasie-
Especially Zaha. Oh my God, he comes across on that one. And Steve Parish is the same. And that's where Everton, if they did one, could get so much out of it.
And that's where I was going, because when you were talking before, it's sort of like all reality TV, isn't it? Particularly, say, your celebrity-based ones, you know, The Jungle, whatever it might be. They all go in, don't they, thinking, I'll come across well. And some of them go in, and you think, their career's over. You know, sort of thing. Well, and so when a club who's going through what fundamentally is a historical event, say, leaving the old lady to go down onto the Royal Blue Mersey and all that good stuff, whoever's in and around the boardroom at that time, all of them will think, I'll come across well, for example.
Of course, yeah.
And the coaching staff the same, and so on. But some of them will come across as really nice. Oh, I never thought he or she was like that. I've changed my view now, positively. Others will go the other way. And it's whether the decision makers have got enough self-awareness to think, what will I really look like? Now, Everton as a football club, when faced with those sort of confrontations and those decisions to make, would generally err on the side of, let's not do it then. Can't mess anything up if we don't do it. But we miss those upside opportunities, what you're talking about. So if they do it, it will be a different Everton to it is right now. And I'm pretty convinced there's people in and around the leadership there right now who would say yes to it. And there's also people who would say no. So that's the changing of the
really
guard,
hope they do.
changing of the guard type stuff as well, isn't it?
I hope they do it. I'm like Ped, I'm a little bit wary just because I know what they're like. But I think it's right, and I think the people who come across well in those things are genuine people.
People who are genuinely nice
anyway. You just said there about I watch The Jungle, but I've done every year.
I do.
Every year, right? And one person who I would say, Anthony Cotton from Corrie, who was like funny in Corrie, went in, came across awful to the extent that when he got in the car, when it shows them leaving the jungle on the coming out thing, his mum said to him, you come across terrible. And he was like, what? And she went, you weren't very nice in that thing, but not. And it's those people who you've seen it with other people, Amir Khan and people like that have tried.
Remember the one with Ramos on Tingyo? And I watched about 15 minutes of it, and it was so...
I watched all of it, but
it was
just
so overproduced.
Yeah.
And the terrible, and I tell you the one who got it completely wrong was them when they did this with Liverpool, and they destroyed themselves.
They destroyed Brendan Rodgers.
But everyone just laughed at them because it was so overproduced. Whereas those Amazon ones, what's great about them is they take full editorial control, so they don't let the club go. No, we want this and we want that. And you get them as they are, and like you've just said, if they're nice people, they will be nice people.
Yeah.
Well,
you say you get them as they are.
The Borussia Dortmund one's
unbelievable.
4 parts.
It's unbelievable.
It's fabulous.
Yeah, I've seen.
Klopp comes across so well.
I lied. I've seen that one as well.
And they're the good bits and the bad bits.
But you're right, and this is where the fun starts, because you say good people come across well. What they want, the producers, is good TV, don't they? Okay. So if they latch on to the fact that Baz is a bit of an outie bugger and if you can get him riled, you know, whatever, then they can edit you in and you can come out looking worse than you really are, or Ped's made to look better than he really is. But the general theme will be right, that you're not a nice guy and he is.
Yeah, because it's staging, isn't it? They did it with Mourinho, didn't he? They had that, the scene where he was watching Sky or he was listening to Talk Sport or something, and he actually edited it, so at first he was watching it, he was listening, and then he just went, I'm turning this off. But actually it was a longer piece shortened together to make it look like he was reacting to one thing. Now they will have gone, that's a great moment, but the moment that he's reacting to doesn't quite work,
fit,
but you know, it's like when you tell a story and you over embellish it, because you know it's a great story, but when you tell it and someone wasn't there, it doesn't really
give it a bit of colour.
Yeah, exactly. And there will be moments like that. Like there was moments in the City one when they kept on going, when Pep kept on going, I know I'm horrible, but you never actually saw why he was horrible. I know you won't listen to this.
Hate me, guys.
I know you hate me, but you never actually saw why that was. You just saw him saying it and the reaction to it. And
look at the way they edited Delph to make him look like he was amazing.
An absolute leader.
Phil Allen says, ask John why UEFA haven't nicked Barca for FFP. How can they go for Aubameyang? Well, I mean, they've literally come out and said they don't want Aubameyang, haven't they? But how come they haven't been nicked when they're in massive debt?
Well, being in debt and breaching FFP is not necessarily the same thing, is it? So I've not looked at their numbers, to be honest, but I'm assuming that...
Well, the wages were 110%.
Yeah, well, they're clearly way over, right? So, but they will get done by it, won't they? Eventually.
Well, they should do, shouldn't they?
But of course, the rules will get changed, and then you can be a conspiracy theorist that the rules are getting changed because the big clubs are bumping against it. Yeah.
Rhys Colborne says, how are we signing Korea if FFP is stopping us from signing players? This is the £30 million.
We're signing who?
The Korea from Lazio.
Well, we're not part of now.
Well,
I mean, that's the top. You know, if you hear Everton signing anybody, just ignore it. We're not signing anybody.
Until they sign them.
Of course, unless it's in the Everton
newspaper. Until it's the 1st of September, yeah.
Well, the thing about it is a lot of these things are out in Sports Witness reports, and they've agreed to deal with this fella and agreed to deal with that. Seen us today, Koulibaly, 40 million, I dismissed it because it was nonsense. 40 million agreed, they've had the conversation, now the clubs have got to do the deal. Well, after you agree 40 million, then if the clubs haven't done the deal, surely the clubs have to do a deal before you know what I mean? So they're going to get this, aren't we, for 13 days? I guess.
Those things, right? Those rumours are in the nose and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know what you think, but only a relatively small percentage of them are complete and utter fantasy. They're just made up.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then you've got a big chunk which are agents are talking, doing this, doing that.
Sometimes so there's a grain of truth in it.
Yeah, they're doing this because they're trying to make someone else move, I mean, the blatantly obvious, City are looking elsewhere, they've decided to walk away,
That's they're looking at that from Fiorentina.
That's for Levy to think, oops, I'm holding out for 150 and will I regret it and all that sort of stuff. So the mere fact that there's still lots of debate amongst whoever's having it, that suggests Everton are talking about some stuff.
Surely
tends to compromise the view that we're not doing anything because of FFP.
Surely Everton have got to be prepared, haven't they?
Of course they have, absolutely.
In case something...
And we all know these things happen sometimes in the last hours, never mind the last days,
No, and you look at now people like Fab Romano and people like him. The agents are talking to him, of course they are. They're the people who are feeding them the information. Every club has information.
Sorry, we might just.
I've seen that age. I thought you were monitoring the sound by having.
These agents, of course, are often agents of multiple players. They'll have contra deals going on with other agents. So you move in from there to there, I can move in from there to there, and and we make lots of money. So.
The thing about it is, the funny thing about it is, with all this is like on the last day in Italy, they still have the hotel room, don't they? Which I think is fascinating. Which I think talking about fly on the wall. You're aware of this, John? So in the last day, if anyone doesn't know, in Italy, all the clubs get together in a hotel and they sit down and they try and do deals. Imagine putting a camera in there. That would be the one.
That'd be incredible. That'd be like, I guess it'd be
draft
like
day.
It'd be like the, Wolf of Wall Street, where they're all shot.
It'd be like draft day in the States, wouldn't it?
How much and all that, but in it, I mean, that is incredible. That'd be amazing.
Because I wonder how many times you'd have not just two fellas in a conversation, but three. You get into me, I'll get into you, and you get into over there, and we all get what we want, and no one has to actually spend any money, because we're all in the room. So if we all settle on the one price, that's
we're all breaking
that's
even.
how it should be done. You see it in Moneyball, don't you, when he's picking up the phone?
Well, I was about to say, that's exactly it. Yeah,
I've got him.
It's that in the draft, isn't it?
You go to him, and then I'll get him, and then we all. You wonder how many of those get done by being in a room, not having to.
And now's probably the time to do those deals when the market is stagnated, because obviously.
But the joy of that approach, right, is there's no intermediaries in there. It's Milan talking to Juventus.
Yeah. And they don't seem to have an issue with doing deals with each other.
It's very surprising, actually, that the Premier League don't do that, and they haven't seen the opportunity to put a camera in the place. Not like over someone's shoulder, but just we're here at Premier League HQ,
and it's all going off.
And it's all going off, and over on the Premier League channel now,
You'll hear.
hear first.
And, you know, and that happens in loads of other industries, right? Because we were joking before about utilities and stuff.
Yeah.
But I did a deal years ago in Holland for a clearinghouse for trading of energy commodities. And it cut out all that to and fro, and it was one place.
Yeah.
You know, it was all done electronically, of course, but it's the same thing. So having a clearinghouse to do transfers, that'd be the end of agents. You know,
Great.
taking a cut, I mean, for doing the deal.
Yeah.
They can take a cut of their clients' wages.
Which
or something.
anyway.
Yeah.
It should be them who pay it, yeah.
But if you break down some of that stuff, I know we're going off piste again, but where neither the buying or selling club can in any way, shape or form pay for agents, yeah? And if they're caught, they get real punitive penalty. Players will soon realise paying a bloody lawyer 500 quid an hour is far cheaper than spending 15 to 20 years of a career with some agents skimming 15 off the top of everything.
Telling you where to go. Johnny Hodgson says, boys, can we crowdfund an idiot abroad when you send them on a wild goose chase around the world to watch random games of football, taking in local culture while preaching the good word of Everton? Filming it in the name of sports journalism sounds like a winner to me. Ned, you could play gigs in the evening for some extra bread. Can we make this happen? You're interested, Ned?
If I'm gigging on the evening, then I'll be like all day. I'll be like, oh, I've got to go to work tonight.
It would be
it'll
called
ruined.
Work, though, you're abroad.
It would be called an innocent abroad.
Yeah.
You know.
I think
Otherwise, HR might say
I
something.
think that's a nice name as well. Are you interested, Ned? Eric Nielsen said this is an excellent idea.
We could do a pilot
See,
in the UK.
In the UK and see how it goes.
I'm up for this, mate.
I think we should send them to every patron that we've got in like a far distant land. Ned has to spend the weekend with them. And
what happens when there's thousands of them?
I'll spend the
You're just trying to get rid of him for the next 20 years.
And he has to observe their culture for the weekend of going the match.
I'll spend the first
You
one
know,
with Dick
ice
Hill.
fishing in Norway, you know, that kind of thing.
Death Valley. Go see David on his way.
Yeah.
Dick Hill, get in
That'll
touch,
be dead
mate.
Dick Hell,
Yeah, that's why you want
But
to
I
go
do
to...
think we should seriously think of doing a pilot of that, just see if it actually has an attraction.
Yeah, let's see. Big Jan says, evening all, any news on Mina and Godfrey for Leeds? Mina will be back.
Godfrey's got
Godfrey's
COVID,
touch and
hasn't
go, yeah, touch and go. More go than touch. Max Dagnall said, just ordered the book for my dad. He's always telling me about the crazy 80s. That might be your one you did
Is
with
that one over
Skinny Macker. Mike says, I saw Tim Cahill was at Goodison to watch last week's match. You think Cahill will end up taking an internal position at Everton like Baines under Ferguson, or even as an Everton manager?
Depends if he's allowed to wear his big watch, isn't he? He has got the best self-promotion in the world.
Oh, he knows the value
it,
of his
doesn't he?
name, Tim.
Yeah.
Definitely.
He's working for Qatar at the moment, isn't he?
That's why he's not really
So maybe
interested
after the
in-
World Cup he might...
He's not managed anyone, has he?
No, he's been
Has
He's
he
working,
got
only
his
just been
badges?
doing. He's only
Been
just
doing
been
his
doing
badges.
his badges. Yeah.
he's been working with the Qatari Institute and all that. So he'll be a brand ambassador only for the World Cup, especially if Australia are there. And then after that maybe he'll settle back, because his family live in Manchester. That's where one of their home bases is. So that's, I think, where he wants to bring his kids up. So
There you go. Garrett says, back from my little holiday now, got lots of content to catch up on, so having a 5-hour binge watch tonight wouldn't be as looking forward to it as if it wasn't for that second half on Saturday. That's it, isn't it? When you win, you want to watch everything and listen to everything. Richard says, evening gents, 5 million for Small seems decent enough, although I think academy players who leave, you should automatically get a sell-on fee of 25%. Not so much for us, but for the smaller clubs. That's if it is 5 million. But yeah, anything we get for them.
It must be on the internet somewhere how it's calculated.
Yeah, must be.
How many years was
just-
he with us?
Since he was 11.
Okay,
So
it's 5 or 6 years.
Almost 6 years, yeah. We got him from West Brom, of course. We took him
Yeah.
from their academy.
Did we
so
compensate them?
I don't know.
Well, whatever compensation,
Whatever
some of
it
it
is.
will go to them, won't it?
So, Big Jan says, can't wait for Ned the travel man.
We're going to do this, Ned.
It's happening, Ned.
We'll do a pilot.
Look at his little face. Look at him.
Can I go to London Zoo?
Get your patrons to decide where he should go.
Where he should go, yeah.
zoos of the world.
Jay Fearon says, watched Neville's interview with Scudamore and found it very interesting. He's clearly very smart and has all that experience in post, but some of his views are pretty delusional and toxic for the game. This Scudamore. ironically suggested clubs must be made to be self-sufficient and not run at a loss at all. But that would mean the top current clubs would stay there. No one else could progress. But yeah, I watched that thinking this will be really good. And Gary Neville was like grilling him and almost looking at him in disbelief as Scudamore was answering him, because basically what Scudamore was saying was it should only really be Liverpool, Man United. No one else is in. No one's interested in anyone else. It should be their league and we should protect them. And Neville's like, well, what about other clubs? And he was like, well, you know, it's not good for the top six to be upset. And made up, he's gone. But his view was so it was like, you are anti-competition, absolute anti-competition. You know, this is the same fella that said when he was in post, and Alan Sugar interviewed him, said, we've got to find a way to get Man United back in the top four. We've got to. And the next season he got 15 penalties. So it's just, it's disgusting. It makes me just think, what's the point? It really disgusts me that there's a human being who is in charge of our thing, running it, who's made up to just make sure we pander to the needs of this.
And as we speak, you know, part of the fan-led review, and we all know what the answer is, but we still have to go through the process.
Yeah.
Right? We'll be considering whether the so-called independent regulator could be the FA, could be the Premier League. No, you know. But then it's about the reach of what the regulator can and can't do.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a nationalised industry, for crying out loud. And listening to some people, that's what they'd want it to be, and then it's a totally flat playing field, you know, and so on. But for people like that with a huge vested interest, that the bigger the TV deal, the more they get paid.
Exactly.
Well, of course they want those clubs who the TV companies would like to be at the top to be at the top.
But we understand that, don't we? We understand that, of course we do. We you know the score with that, but it still takes it away from what competition is. The dream of football's about dreams at the end of the day. It's not about reality. We've got reality when we're not at the match. That's your life, and things are happening. But football is that dream of my team might actually win something. We saw Everton in the 80s go from being 7th, and I'm using that because that was the year before, finishing 7th and winning an FA Cup, which was incredible. You know, at Christmas, people thought I was getting relegated.
Indeed.
But in 18 months, we were champions. You know, and then we should have won the league the next year. We did win the league the next year, and we had a great thing going. But once again, we got kicked in the balls because Europe, we weren't allowed to compete in Europe, and we lost our team, broke up, and players left, blah, 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 blah. But that came, we'd seen Watford get promoted through the leagues and finish runners-up. We'd seen Nottingham Forest get promoted and win back-to-back European Cups. You know, and all of that thing of like anyone can do it. So if you build your
Jack
team...
Walker's fault.
Yeah, in a way, yeah. But then, was that any different to what Everton done on a smaller scale and other teams? But the thing about it was he was still a local businessman investing his own money.
Merseyside Millionaires was still a local man.
Well, exactly, investing into his own business. But there was still, even though Jack Walker did it, there was still a thing that Liverpool still had David Moores and they were trying to win the league and other teams, but you still hoped you could become Chelsea. Me growing up as a kid, Chelsea were in the league below, got up, had electric fences, were a bit of a joke club, till Mathew Harding spun them around. Money, local businessmen, put money in, changed them. Now they're a global enterprise. But there was always that belief that you could become that. And what financial fair play has turned into, and profit and sustainability. And I understand why they kind of wanted to do it because of Portsmouth, but what it's done is, it's just allowed that gap to go like that. Sky started it, because Sky started saying, use the clubs that people are paying the money for, so you're going to be on telly 20 times a season. So every time you're on telly, we pay you 750 grand. Everton, you're on telly 4 times a season, because we just chose that moment when the Premier League kicked off to be shite. When if we'd have still been where we had been, don't forget when we won the FA Cup.
That distribution stuff's more balanced than that. But
okay,
I
but when we won the FA Cup, and I still have to refresh my mind with this, it was only 8 years since we were champions. 8 years, and we won the cup, and it seemed like an absolute eternity. It was only 3 years, 4 years that we'd been outside the top 6. Fourth, we'd been second, fourth, in and around it. And then all of a sudden, the Premier League kicked off, and we went and nosed that. Joe dragged us up, we won the cup, we got 6th, and everything looked like we were having a resurgence. and then Walter Smith at it, and it all went Piers.
We do the counters to that though, which is fair enough, you know. And but there's an outlier amongst all that. Leicester won the league.
Yeah, but that's...
Hang on a sec.
Yeah.
And the top four became not top, big.
The
you know
Sky
what I mean?
Four. Yeah.
Call them the Sky
The
Four.
Labour's Sky Four, weren't they?
Yeah. Became a 6. All around the time when we had it within us to join that club, you know, Tottenham got into that 6 and because they were better run at the time than we were.
Yeah.
Arsenal perhaps got there through legacy to a degree and the great work that the manager was doing, just like Man United, we kept it, you know, and so on.
To be fair, he's done that over there.
The two revenue earners of the two red teams in the two big cities, right, do have that brand value global for various reasons.
Yeah.
You know, and so on. But we've failed, right?
No, don't get me wrong. It's not. I'm not saying Everton are innocent.
Yeah, but where I'm going with this, with the failure is, it's almost, and because it's innate within Everton fans, is they changed the rules, right? They fix financial fair play, they fix profitability and sustainability, they make it much more of a level playing field. You can't change the rules to the point where I could manage Everton and we'd finish 6th, right? So you're still going to have that those who do it better end up at the top.
Of course, yeah.
Right? And if our failings are around off-field leadership, off-field decisiveness and all those sorts of things, you can change the rules every bloody week. And if that doesn't get fixed, we'll still end up lower than we as fans think we should be.
Yeah.
Okay?
I do agree with that.
If we really believe that we've hit a glass ceiling and we've got a great on-field team within the rules and the off-team field team have done what they can and all those sorts of things, right? But you've got a glass ceiling which you just can't break through. Then you can scream from the treetops. But we're nowhere near a glass ceiling. You know? Nowhere near it. You know? And if I look at the league, and we can do it now briefly, and perhaps talk about it another day properly, but who outside of this so-called Big Six feels they're being constrained from breaking into it by the rules?
No, I said this to Baz yesterday.
I can't think of anyone.
I said this to Baz yesterday. How much money would we actually have to spend to be in the top
We've
4?
spent it already.
No, but I'm saying no, but that's what I'm saying.
But that's the point, yeah.
That's it. It wouldn't really matter if there was an open checkbook at the moment. There's no way it doesn't matter. Because you're saying it's like the Randy Lerner thing, isn't it? When he went, I
can't do this no more.
I can't do this.
Yeah.
There's no money I can spend that is going to get me from 5th to 4th, and that's where we actually did fall behind when we were getting 5th and 6th. At that time, it did actually feel it didn't matter what we spent. We were never going to make that jump.
You know what? I can't remember his name, and I should check. But the Shareholders Association, a number of years, and probably 4 more years ago than
what you think.
Care to remember, yeah. And he was a professor at university and stuff. You know, one of these. If it was one of the ones who, like Kevin Maguire and the like, who are around now, then you'd know who it was. And he stood in I think it was in the People's Club, I think, at Goodison when we were doing this forum. And he fundamentally said, listen, you know, get over yourself.
I know who this is. I interviewed
Tell me who you think it is.
Oh, the guy from the Will. He's never told me.
Yeah, you might.
Oh,
you try and think of his name. And
I will.
if you name his name, I'll go, yeah.
I interviewed him when Moyes was the manager, wasn't it?
And it was really good. He said, get over
wage bill.
Yeah, and he get over yourself. Ain't going to happen. And that was when it was a 4.
Yeah.
It's impossible, right? And it was fundamentally, it's not transfer fees at the end of the day, it's wage bills.
Wages,
you know, we know all the money ball and all that sort of crap. Fundamentally ends up with you with the biggest wage bill,
finishes near the top.
Nearest to the top, and then you need income to cover that and so on. And that's why the rules are then and so on. Now, it's interesting that when you talk about the rules and the way they constructed financial fair play, and this would have been pre-FFP anyway, I would have thought. Then then you say, well, don't come up with all this fancy losses and crap. Just have your wage bill can't be greater than X percent of your turnover. Sorted, you know? And then wage bills are the driver for success then, rather than how big a transfer fee you can afford. But we go back to the Koeman days and spending all that money on the wrong players. And you get the benefits
and giving them stupid wages.
Yeah, and the wages that go with it, because that's the argument of the agent. You're paying 50 million quid, he should earn more than that sort of thing. And that's where the Thierry Small thing will be, won't it? If the compensation's 5 million quid and Arsenal are trying to pay him $1,000 a week, his agent's going to have something to say, isn't he, sort of thing. But reality is, it can be broken. You know, if you can't do it in the short term, through, you know, scale, if you like, or your owner piling money in, then you need to do it smarter. And that's when we get into all those decisions we made which were wrong around players. We're paying a fortune for a director of football, but are we listening to him? All those sorts of things. And that's when you get into the leadership challenge about, you know what, actually, the rules could be anything. And until we get the organisational structure right around decision making and all that, it won't matter. Because during that time, it's not only players and agents who've earned loads of money, it's board members as well.
We were saying yesterday, and it is the thing that we don't look at it as fans. Of course we don't, because we just want to see new players come in, we want to see the team progress and blah, blah, blah. But when I was at that debate last week, you know, Carragher...
Was there like one from every club or something?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
So you got to talk to them as well, what they think.
Yeah. Jamie Carragher said, because he was like Liverpool fans moaning that we hadn't spent any money, he said, but we've just give Fabinho a new contract. Van Dijk's just got a new deal. Henderson now's got a new deal. He said, Fabinho's just signed a contract worth something like 30 million or 40
37 million.
37 million. Van Dijk's, Paul was saying, new 3-year deal, 30 odd million. Liverpool spent 150 million this summer on renewing contracts and signing Konate. He was like, there's your money. Fans might look and go, why haven't we bought Haaland or Mbappe and all that? But Liverpool as a business go, well, we've just done another 130 million.
We've had these chats before, haven't we?
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. And us as fans, we won't want to hear that. We won't want to look at that.
Look at the rising wage bills for
That's
Everton.
what it is.
Right.
Well, I said to Ped the other day, and you know, we're in the same city as them. Same economic climate and everything else. They are far bigger than us commercially. I get that. But we're in the same city, playing in the same competition. And their wage bill's double what ours is. And we're trying to catch them. But the wage bill's double.
There's a question there, isn't it? You know, their ground holds whatever it holds.
55.
55. Yeah. Is it that much? Whatever. 50 odd, say.
55, but yeah.
What percentage of their fan base are season ticket holders? Sorry, their capacity.
Yeah.
Less than ours.
Less than ours.
Okay. What percentage, you have to assume to a large
degree.
Their
tickets are dearer than us, probably. But yeah, go on.
You've got to assume to a large degree season ticket holders are mostly going to be reasonably local, as in this country and so on. Yeah. Obviously, get lots of tourists, which you can fleece and stuff. And that's where it was going, right? Because I'd sit down with Elston and say, well, if you're full every week, you should put the prices up.
Yeah.
You know, then we talk about the capacity of the new stadium. We can't fill it. You know, and this, you know, that's why we pick what we pick and so on. And it's a lack of understanding about what passion for a football club's all about. Yeah. And it may be wrong, and it almost certainly is wrong, that football fans and Everton fans in particular find a way to pay what it costs. You know, and you know, you say that their wage bill's twice the size of ours, therefore, actually, their proximity to us in points terms is an embarrassment for them, not an embarrassment for us.
Yeah.
But people don't see that. They see, well, they finished in the top four and we didn't, you know, that sort of thing. But there's also their local fans who live locally and are just go the same boozers as we go to and so on and so forth, are paying twice as much for their tickets as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's part of their income stream. It's not a major part of it. But what it is it's cause and effect. You know, bigger ticket prices makes it a rare event. Therefore, demand is exceeding supply, and that's what drives the prices up. And people make a day of it, and they spend more money in the shops, and so on and so on and so on.
Disneyland.
The famous atmosphere, which is absolutely a myth if they're not winning, right? And so on and so forth. And so people like Elston not believing that Everton fans would pay 50% more for tickets, doesn't know Everton fans. Not believing that we'd fill a 60,000 seater stadium, doesn't know Everton fans. About the only real Evertonian on the board, Bill, right, would say, for the first 2 years at Bramley Moor, it will be sold out almost regardless of what the capacity is.
Yeah.
So if we'd built a 60,000 seater stadium, it would be full for the first 2 years. Guaranteed. He sells seats in theatres for his job, if you like, right?
Yeah.
And so you're thinking, whatever people do and don't think about him, you've got a chairman who's saying, I would sell 60,000 seats every single game for 2 years in a new stadium. And yet we're building a 52,000 one, right? So there are people at that level in the decision-making process who don't believe that.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that needs to be fixed. And that's when you get accusations about lack of ambition. It's not ambition in buying players or how we play. It's
ambition
just,
in the fans.
Yeah.
Well, it is, isn't it?
Puffing your chest
you
up.
see that with the away fans. There's a debate going on right now about who deserves to get away tickets and stuff. That's a great debate to be having, isn't it? That's a great debate. That there's
demand to watch Everton.
To watch Everton away from home. You know, there's 3 away games next week and they'll all be sold out. There's people bemoaning, laughing at Huddersfield because Huddersfield haven't given us the end and encouraging their fans.
They could have sold all of them, yeah.
And we could have sold and earned Huddersfield a boatload of money, but they're saying, no, we'll get through if we have all our fans. And it's like, yeah, but if you don't get through, we'll sell out for you and spend a load of money on beer. But it's great that we're having that debate. And
how big's their end that we could have had?
I think it's about 5,000 or 6,000.
Right, so let's pretend it's 6,000. Put your hands up, wherever you're watching this, you know, wherever you are in the world and all that crap, right? If you think Everton asked for 6,000 tickets.
Yeah, I don't believe they did.
Because that's part of being bold. Listen, we want that end, please. Remember Sunderland? Whoa, what a night that was, right? Now, you're right.
Man United 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, but you're right. If the home team thinks we want the minimum number of Everton fans there possible,
because we want to win.
Because we think we stand a better chance of winning. But I'm telling you, our fans being there would inspire their players as well. You know, how many fans are they expecting to be in the ground? It's not going to be full, is it?
No. Well,
because
empty, the same end was empty last night.
Because it's all well and good for the club to make a decision thinking if we have less Everton fans, we've got a better chance of winning. But if their fans already expect to lose, some of them will be fickle and won't turn up because it's that crappy League Cup and all that sort of thing. But if they knew there were going to be 6,000 Everton fans behind one goal, and they're probably...
It's atmosphere and everything, isn't it? You know, they got done 5-1 at home on Saturday.
And after all this time of COVID and everything, and they're going to leave seats empty.
They could get Arsenal away in the next round and they're out.
They'll be out anyway.
Everton went out 3-0.
I'm just saying they couldn't
No, they could,
and that's their payday.
That's
gone.
the payday gone, yeah.
You know what I mean?
But that's where you're going to be bold and say, we want the whole end. And then when people are having that reasonable debate, if you've someone who's not been going to games in the past and now you do want to go, then the club can say, well, we asked for the whole end, they wouldn't let us have them.
Yeah, it is mad.
But that debate's flawed, isn't it?
I mean, listen, people who go to the away games deserve to go to the away games.
Yeah.
The only difference I would say if I was going to enter that debate was under the new ticketing system. I think if you buy a ticket and you can't go and someone else...
You're supposed to give it back, aren't you?
Well, that's
what you should
if someone takes it off you in terms of throughway...
They should get the credit.
Or you split it in half.
There should be a mechanism to do
that's
that.
what I'm saying. You should split it in half. Because I've been...
But if you go, you should get the credit.
I know, but I've been a few times in the last few years where someone has me to go, I've got their ticket. I go to the match, but I don't earn any credits from it. So if there is a new mechanic for swapping that ticket over, whether you need to show ID and have it on your phone or all that, then that should be split in half. So I should get some for going. The person should get some, whatever, you know. I don't want to upset anyone.
I think that,
which is unlike me.
Well, he's picking another thing out. Where that's flawed is the credits get reset every season. You don't get them and then keep them forever. So every single season for the last God knows how long, you know, I've gone to pretty much every single away game. Therefore, I end up starting the next season with whatever the max credit count is, 20 or whatever it is, right? And then I've got to continue to go for 4, 5, 6 games until they reset and you start again. And yeah, there'll be games like Huddersfield where you can't get tickets for love of money. Everyone knows unless you're in the top X%, you're not going to get them for Bournemouth, whatever, because when they were in, because it's small capacity and stuff.
Yeah.
But this myth that those people who go the aways have pulled the ladder up behind them, right, is wrong.
Yeah, there's still opportunity.
I've asked the club in the past how many fans go to, say, 15 or more away games a season.
Yeah.
And the answer is about 60 to 70% of the average away allocation. So basically a couple of thousand, right? So a couple of thousand go to 15 plus, and then you whittle that down to there's the ones who go to every single one, right? So that means, on average, 1,000 tickets per away game are people who don't go for 15 times a season. So that means the people who've got all the credits aren't necessarily going to all the games anyway.
Yeah.
So you probably need, when the season starts like now, to have, say, 15 to have a chance of cherry picking a little bit, you know. But if you've not been to an away game for years, just because you don't fancy some place on a wet Tuesday evening, then you can't then bitch and whinge when you think, oh, we're on the up after one game, therefore I want to go. Yeah.
No.
But that thing you're right about, which is the supporters club thing, which is where a lot of the tickets might disappear to, They need to look at those sorts of things and fundamentally ensure that everyone who actually turns up at an away match gets the credit. I don't do this halfy thing. Okay. You get the credit. The person who attends gets the credit.
Because they've gone.
Because they're the person who went.
Yeah, fair dues. That's
fair enough. The kudos isn't buying a ticket. The kudos is physically using it. And I'm sure when all the clubs have digital entry, we'll know who was actually there.
Oh, yeah.
And that might not be the person who originally bought the ticket, but that's where the credit should go.
Yeah. Okay.
Or let people trade credits.
No.
Sell credits. Better than that cryptocurrency crap.
We'll talk about that tomorrow.
We'll do that tomorrow.
I was going to say we should talk about
We'll be talking about that tomorrow.
Like Carl says, hey John, any value to us extending our accounting period by 6 months to help with the sustainability rules? I am thinking if we let the likes of Keane leave on loan with an obligation to buy next season, the money would therefore be received within our accounting period. I don't think you can do that, can you? You can't decide.
You can extend the accounting period, but you know what? It's an interesting technical question, which I'll probably have to think about. But I would expect the league, with its profitability and sustainability rules, would say, let's have some boundaries around that, because you know how long can you extend a company's reporting? You can make it 5 years if you wanted. Yeah, but I don't know. Maybe I'll find out. I'll ring a man. Yeah.
See, because the thing about it is...
Write that down, Ned, if you would. It's a good one, that. I like that, technically.
I think if Everton were to loan Moise Keane with the obligation to buy, say a club come in, then you make that obligation to buy before June the 30th, then it's still within this year, isn't it? So therefore we could...
No, because it's when the buy transaction happens.
Know what I'm saying? So if you're into Milan...
If
you come in for Moise Keane, we say, we'll loan him to you. Because you don't want to buy him now.
But you've got to buy him before a certain date.
You're not signing off on this loan until you agree to buy him by the 20th of June.
Next year. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So, and then
because as long as it's in the accounting
Exactly,
period,
so then we've got that, we can use that money now, can't we?
Yeah,
because I've seen a lot of people saying, and to be honest, I was off the same thing, no point loaning him. We need the money from him. Lots of point in loaning him. And we get money next year. But if it's in that year, then we can use that money now.
Let me ask you a question then. Why would the club taking him on loan want to loan him, pay a loan fee and then a transfer fee in the same fiscal year, unless their fiscal year is different from ours? In other words, it would benefit us. Let's use FFP as the example. It would benefit for us for FFP, but it wouldn't be to their detriment. Yeah. So you can play games around any boundary. Yeah. But if their financial year was exactly the same as ours, for example,
then there'd be no point, would there?
What would the point be?
Yeah.
Unless it's cash, of course. That's the only reason. They haven't got the cash now, but
we'll have it at the end of the season.
They would have it later. Whatever. Yeah. But I'm sure that's why you have guys with big spreadsheets. Yeah.
Phil, the interesting one. Phil says, could you ask John if he's ever lost his rag with the ESC? Oh, come close to it. A lot of people have the S down as a doom merchant, but is he just a realist? He is a doom. I'll say it. He is a doom merchant.
No, I've not lost. He might have lost his rag with me, I think, maybe. But I've not lost my rag with him, and I don't think he's either a doom merchant or a complete realist. Yeah, I think he's a man with an opinion from a certain perspective.
Yeah, and that's fine.
And he's pragmatic. And we all do this. We can all look at the same data, right? and then it's the intangibles that turn data into opinion.
Yeah, of course.
You know, so you know, and I think we did this on EBM a long time ago. So, well, what happens if we just choose to ignore the rules? And that just doesn't compute for Paul, really.
Yeah, he can't have it.
Because, you know, he's very much, you know, I'll see the numbers, I could get them. He does great work assessing what the unpublished numbers might be, because of course you got last year's numbers and you know who's come and who's gone, and you can make guesses about salaries and all that sort of stuff. But which is why I introduced into EBM this: you don't know what you don't know. Okay, Paul will be right as often as he's wrong, or vice versa if you choose.
Yeah.
Okay, but what you can't do if you're outside of the club, is know what the hell the people inside it are going to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're on a winning streak, aren't you, in polar views about we're not buying anyone, yes we will, we're not buying anyone, yes we will. Yeah. And you know, you've been right more than you've been wrong.
I've not been wrong yet.
Well, I was being polite, yeah.
I know.
But eventually you will be wrong.
Of course, yeah. Right? But the thing about my thing is, and I never doubt Paul's business acumen and how he views a business, but my caveat to whatever he says is, football isn't like a normal business. It's just not. You can just look at it.
They make irrational decisions.
Yeah, it's
like buying 3 number 10s.
Well, exactly. It's you know, if you were running a business and you've done it, and you know, you just look at something and go, well, this can't happen until we do that or whatever. Football clubs don't necessarily do that,
The way I always deal with, or used to deal with this, because I don't work for other people anymore, really. But, you know, you can imagine, you know, I'm sat there in a boardroom running a business that turns over a few $100 million or something, and it's the time of year when the auditors are in, and Everton go through this, right? And the auditors are saying, well, you know what, you've done this and you've done that, that makes that number look better than we think it is, you know? Eventually you get to an impasse, right? And the most powerful statement that, you know, a chief exec can use with an auditor, because they don't know what they don't know, is that's based on a management view. And I'm the manager in this context, right? So my view is the way the accounts are constructed. You've got the actuals, the tangible things you can see as an auditor. And then you've seen some things where decisions have been made, and fundamentally, they're not decisions you would have made. Right, about the value of an asset and those sorts of things, right? But ultimately it comes down to a management view. And I think the only way that anyone who reads what people like Paul, and there's others do it as well, that people like Paul do, is they have an opinion, and if your opinion's different, it doesn't make him a numpty, it doesn't make you a numpty, it just means you're different people with different opinions.
With different opinions,
you know?
yeah.
It's the classic cliched, half full, half empty, all those sorts of things, right? But you're on a winning streak, so long may it continue, because that means we buy players.
Yeah, we definitely.
But it's a diminishing returns thing, because if you're going closer and closer to the wire.
Of course, yeah.
My
My whole thing is, as much as I'd like these rules to change, you know, and Gary Neville kind of said what we've all said last week when I asked him that question about the profit and sustainability. You've got an owner that wants to put it in an account that doesn't go against the club, but the club can spend. That's how he said. That's how it'll change. He said, and I believe that will.
Okay.
That's what'll happen. He's an owner of a football club. He's had those conversations. He believes that's what will happen. You've said yourself, you see it changing. I've got no doubt in my mind Everton have to move to a model where everything's sustainable. You can't keep going back to the well.
Mashiri said that at his first general meeting, and we've seen no behaviour since he got here that supports what he said.
No,
so if he had a strategy, it was to make us sustainable, and he's not performing very well against it.
No, he's not, but it needs to be, doesn't it? And
is the argument not that building a stadium is that sustainability?
Not really, because it loads the business with debt that it wouldn't have if we didn't build it.
Okay.
But the possibility of making more money than what we've got at Goodison Park?
Well, by getting 10,000 more people or whatever it is, 10,000 more people in the stadium, yes. At the same ticket prices, not really. Because
ticket prices will go up.
Yeah, but we're going off on one now, aren't we? Because what we're saying is we've got we did have a 40,000, broad brush, 40,000 seater stadium, and we increased the capacity by 25%. Keep the pricing the same. Loads of people have done the sums, right? So that's the extra income that you talk about. Okay, we've got more boxes, but not that many more. And we've got more hospitality, so you're into pricing and for those, because you can still keep the rank and file pricing low and so on. So you end up with a view, our revenue, match day income will increase by this amount. But the costs go up by 20 odd million just to service the debt. So you've got to make 20 million, right, extra income through the gate to be exactly the same. And again, go over to Paul's website.
So what's the point?
Because we presumably expect a couple of things. One is that the income we will make in
playing devil's advocate.
Yeah, of course, yeah. The income we will make from the new stadium is significantly greater than that 20 million. Yeah. Otherwise, what's the point?
Point, yeah.
Then there's the brand value of increased, perception around the world. Beautiful stadium. Will that increase what you can take from sponsors? Are we likely, and in that first season, undoubtedly, surely, we will be the prime game on the first match weekend that we're in that stadium simply because we're going to go to Everton's new stadium, right? Okay. So it's the indirect benefit of having it, you know. Don't want to go through old coals again, but if Mansour was making his decision right now, it'd be Everton because he sees the beautiful new stadium that's going to be there, you know.
And maybe that's what they're thinking, the next takeover.
Yeah, well, clearly it'll increase the valuation of the business significantly as long as you can service that debt, which we should be able to do. But ultimately, this is why people think doomsayers, because he gets his spreadsheet out, Paul, and he goes, okay, you know.
You mean by saying...
Well, Paul have done this to death, I'm sure, right? So you can go on his website and it'll be there. And the real numbers will be there from his perception. We have to increase our match day income by this amount of money just to stand still. So what's the point, you say? Well, the answer is it must be more, mustn't it? You then make assumptions on how much you're going to sell hospitality tickets for, how much you're going to sell regular tickets for, and so on and so forth, and you end up with a number. And if that number isn't big enough, the only answer is ticket prices are going up. So every goddamn ticket price in the new stadium, give or take, you know, kids and stuff like that, concessions, is going to be significantly higher. And the club have tested our preparedness to take that, with the surveys that they did, right? Now, I've got mates, you know, who've got less wherewithal to pay increased ticket prices than I have, and they sit in parts of the ground at Goodison where the ticket price is less than mine, which has to be because I'm in the park end and that's the dearest seat, right? And they are indicating when they tell me what their survey results are that they put in, that they're prepared to pay 50% more in Bramley Moor than they pay now. If the club have got that answer from pretty much everybody, they're negligent if they don't put the prices up by at least 50%, aren't they?
They will go up.
With over 20,000 on the waiting list right now.
No, I know.
Which will be 30,000. And then you are into really hard-nosed business decisions when PED's not prepared to, or sadly can't afford to pay 800 quid for a pretty average seat, that there's 30,000 people who will, and that's what they feel.
That's what they've
I don't
got.
have to. I'm in Bill's box.
Well, there you go. Oh, well, yeah, well, that's because are you, no, you're not, are you?
Also, the said, and I'm not digging him out here, I'm just saying what he said that one of the reasons Sasha may have left is because year 2 funding for the stadium has not been secured.
Oh, well, I never saw the year 2 funding bit. I saw the...
Well, something about...
No, I saw the first... I'll comment on that in a sec. I saw his tweet where he said there was 2 reasons why he might have gone or something, and the first one was the lack of funding for the stadium. I didn't see anything about...
Sorry, I took that as year 2 because Macheri's paying year 1.
Fair enough. Okay. Sasha told the Shareholders Association at the last meeting that the stadium's funding will be in place by the end of August. And that's in the minutes. And if the minutes are not on our website right now, they will be, because I've asked our SEC to put them on. And the club have approved those minutes, so they don't have a problem with what's being said. So you can then look at a different view, I guess, which would be he's going because his work is done. Yeah,
definitely. Ahmed says, Joe makes a good point about capacity. Something I noted from the fan overlap show, the Leeds fans saying 62,000-seater stadium is how they see themselves as a big club, waiting to become a super club, whereas us building a 52,000-seater stadium is essentially limiting the scope of our future. We shouldn't be scared of building a bigger stadium, a stadium bigger than Liverpool, in fact.
Our Bramley Moor will have a greater capacity than Juventus, won't it?
Yeah, but they worked the other way around though, didn't they? When they built the Allianz, they were coming out of an 80,000 and they were actually working the flip side of get a smaller ground.
Drive prices up.
And
what happened to attendance? Went down.
But
they're the perfect example of a too small stadium having to have prices that fans were not prepared to
But
pay.
also, though, they own their stadium now. They didn't own their last stadium, which is the model Italian.
But there's no atmosphere in there. Stadium.
No, I know. I'm just saying.
Because other than for the very biggest games, it's empty. Yeah.
Leeds have
broad brush, but
Leeds have they're planning for a 62,000-seater stadium.
Plans are great, mate.
Yeah. No, but I'm just saying.
They planned last time. What happened to them?
No. I think the thing for us, is that quite clearly 52,888 is too low.
Yeah.
Quite clearly. But there's no
demand
question.
will exceed supply.
Yeah.
Which is a good place to be business.
But I still think it's negligent if it's less than 55. I think 55 I'm happy with. I'd love it to be 60. I'd love it to be 62. 55 I think is a good figure. I think Everton 55 sell out no problem, create a huge demand for tickets.
King's Dock was 55.
The which?
King's Dock was supposed to be 55.
Yeah, and that was it. King's Dock in 1999 was 55.
And demand for tickets must be greater now.
Well, I was working at Everton in ticket office, then we went to sell now. We were nowhere near selling.
That's right, yeah.
Selling match day tickets all day. So therefore,
but maybe Paul Gregg had an influence on that one.
Well, maybe.
You know, a marketeer.
Well, yeah. So
an ally for Bill about let's go as big as we can.
So what we have to do now is we've got the plan and permission in. The structure can go up, and then we can expand like Spurs before it kicks off.
Would we have built King's Dock if we'd marketed it as a 45,000 capacity?
Probably not.
No.
I wouldn't have thought so.
But I just think, we could have got the money together for the King.
As soon as the structure goes up, right? And I know the club have spoken about this internally. And people who told me are no longer there, but they were at the board at the time, right? is, as you say, the physical structure can go in, the concrete can go in, and then you can fundamentally say to the south stand, and it sounds flippant, but it's true, how close together should we put the seats? Yeah.
Well, we sat here probably 2 years, 18 months ago, and went, actually, or a year ago, and said, actually, if we shrink those seats slightly, because they're much bigger than what my seat is now, it's great in the Bullens. Great. Noisy. If you shrink those seats, you can get more seats in without needing to rely on stand.
What are we going to do? Are we going to means test every person to see if they can get in that seat, though?
What happens at Goodison?
No, I know. That's what I'm saying.
What I'm saying to you is...
Are we going to have the skinny stand?
The current...
That's what we're going to do, because that rules me out, I'm afraid.
Mate.
Because I'm an actual human size.
And you're in the Gladys seat. Is your seat too small?
Mate, I've got elbows.
Is your seat too small?
No, it's all right.
No, so your seat in the going into Bramley Moor is much bigger than what your seat is
I
at
know.
Goodison. So
It's not as big as Arsenal.
No, Arsenal's huge.
That's not Arsenal.
But they're like armchairs.
Yeah, right. So you don't need that.
No.
And what you're trying to do
No, you
is
spend most of your time stood up.
you're trying to
Make it too
create
comfortable.
an environment where it's like Goodison. That's our biggest asset, is the fans.
Atmosphere comes from proximity.
Right. So if you can, we did this by just a simple maths. You could put another 2,500 seats to take it to 55, and everyone would still have a bigger seat than they have at Goodison Park right now.
There's rules to comply with, don't forget. Right? But I tend to do correlations, speak to different people in the club and different levels and stuff, and then you can make deductions, can't you?
Yeah.
So I'm reasonably confident, and maybe someone can tell me I'm talking bull if they know for fact, right? And then at least we'd know that. I'll just phrase it this way: fill in the nooks and crannies in the new stadium, and you can get an extra 3,000 seats.
Definitely.
So there's your 55.
I'd be huge.
And then you can have a modest amount of standing places at a ratio of 1.5, which is the planning assumption, and maybe it could take 2 if that, 1 to 2, and you could get potentially to 60. But don't forget, at 1.5 to get to 60 on that basis, you'd need like 12,500, 13,000 people standing, and that's just not going to happen, right? Because you only get, you've got to have 2 seats for get 1 extra person in. But so what they've talked about in the away end and at the home end might add another couple of thousand, I suppose. And 57.
57, you start to get there though, aren't you then?
Yeah.
Start to get there.
57, 58 is what, in my youth, that was Goodison's capacity. So.
Yeah. I agree. That's where we are. But
we can have this debate as we get closer.
Yeah. No, well, that's for me. That's the whole thing.
Because the big debate that'll open up then will be how they're going to do the transfer, migration of fans from this stadium to the other one. All the issues around, my 2 granddaughters are on the waiting list. Yeah. One's bloody 2 months old, and the other one's not 3 yet. Yeah. But how they're going to deal with me wanting 4 seats in the same place. Yeah.
That'll be interesting.
Toffee TV box.
And we know Tottenham made a complete mess of it, so.
But Spurs, one thing I was going to say as we're finishing with Spurs is, though, Spurs put their application in and said it's 56,000. That's it. That's it. That's what we tested. That's what we want.
Yeah.
The minute they got the plan and started getting stuff off, they went, actually, we're having 62.
But the other thing that the club have done through the stadium...
So hopefully Everton do that.
Yeah, but the other thing that the club have said through the stadium development director is that for a substantial increase in the stadium, there's the only stand that's upgradable, if you want to call it that, is the east stand.
Okay.
And then you destroy, in my view, and I don't know, I would have to wait and see it, the beauty of what Dan Meese has done. So you've got to believe that on balance, if you're talking about, we can increase capacity by X by making the equivalent of this stand look horrible, right? The distorted big stand, then you shouldn't do it. You should maintain the purity of that design because it's beautiful.
So put more seats in.
So it's nooks and crannies, pack them in a bit, and try and exploit rail seating for increasing capacity as well.
Just on stadiums, I was speaking to someone on Saturday who did put together the Wi-Fi package for Spurs. And he told me it costs $4,000 a season for the kind of Wi-Fi where if you could sit at your seat and watch another game live from another stadium.
It only costs $4,000.
$4,000 a season
For the club?
For the club.
It's criminal that we keep using excuses as to why it's not in this place.
Oh, that's terrible.
But it will be in the new place, surely.
It was so,
before G.
No, people go, oh, you can't, you shouldn't be bothered. No, honestly, it was so bad on Saturday that I couldn't send a message to Baz.
Yeah.
I couldn't, and this is a work message. Like, and like if I want to ask them a question about, can you make sure they get this for me, or film this for me, or I couldn't find out the score of the Man United game for some reason.
Actually, for the team.
Yeah,
because I was in
and
the
I got
ground
it.
so
And I got it at 5:15.
And I was going like that. I'll be refreshing me app, trying to get, what's the Everton team? And it wasn't on the monitors
And
in the
also,
concourse.
because Everton didn't put anything on the
was
monitors.
nothing on the monitor.
They didn't put the team news on. They just had a picture of Jeff Stelling.
So I walked
And I was
out.
like-
I walked out into the, you know, a 5-3. I was like,
He goes to Man City and you
Mina
get free
playing or
Wi-Fi.
is Keane playing?
Exactly, but I'm not. But people go, oh, it shouldn't be bothered. Yeah, but I actually think now, in 2021, having internet is a basic human right, because that's how we communicate with each other. I mean, there's a thing the other day saying they're going to cut all the landlines in 3 years. Your phone will be, and we've already got it now. It's all now via the internet. We don't have a landline as such. It's like, it's a basic human right.
It's interesting actually, because one of the challenges that when I've spoke to not just people, you know, formally at the club, but then informally when you see them in other places and stuff about the capacity, one of the ways they dealt. I remember speaking to Sasha in the boardroom on a number of seasons ago. The first home game was Southampton, right? And talked to him about it, and he says, well, because they do all this analysis and they get all this guidance and research data and all that crap, and it's quite legitimate. And I think, who's the bloke who's just left them as being the chief exec, right? Peter, right? And I spoke to him about the same thing, that the current generation, and particularly the generation which is emerging right now, which will be the ones who are going to Bramley Moor, the 10, 12-year-olds in Bramley Moor are currently, 6, 7, 8, type of thing. They consume their data only one way, with that thing.
Exactly.
And so your stadium has to, if you get my sort of currently 3-year-old granddaughter going into Bramley Moor when she's 6 or 7 and going, Grandad, my phone's not working, she ain't going to go again.
Yeah.
She's not going to go again. She's got to have, I want to contact my mates. I want to say, look at me. I want to do
But anything like, I couldn't even get phone signal, which means if someone was desperately trying to get in touch with me for like an emergency, God forbid that would happen, but no one could have. No. The club are asking you to come into the ground
into a dead zone
using technology. You know, a season ticket on your phone and an app on your phone for your COVID. And yet they're not providing you with the basic tools. I find that astonishing. No. And it's not about sitting at your phone while the match is on. It's about just like, I want my phone to work.
Listen, the objective of the exercise, isn't it? It should be proximity based as well, rather than just things. If you got the ticket on your phone, it just lets you in. You don't have to do anything, right? But they want to get us inside the wall at Bramley Moor as early as possible, spending money.
Cashless society.
All that, but inside the wall, in the magnificent space that's going to be a fan zone with all the concessions that'll be in there, all that stuff. You ain't going to do it if you get within a mile of Bramley Moor and your phone goes off.
Well, put it this way. Put it this way, John. If I'd gone the match on Saturday and I didn't have a bank card on me and I just took my phone and used my phone, which I do in the shops, I couldn't have bought anything from the ground, inside the ground. So if I'd gone to buy a round, which would be £20 a round, I couldn't have bought a round.
If you were on digital.
If I was just on my phone.
Which is what they want you to do.
What they want you
all
to do. Leeds this week is a cashless, I believe it's cashless this week at Leeds, which all the stadiums are going to.
So you better have a card with you or...
You know. Some people don't like taking the cards. Why? What's the point in having a thing on your phone? Why take your card? No one wants to take the card anymore. You could lose it, a physical thing. And if I took for the simple fact of as I said, the fella who put it in the space, I was having a chat with him.
Get him on your show.
I can't. It's a bit.
There you go.
It's delicate.
They must have good signal across the park. Liverpool's always on their bloody phones.
They're on the phones and their iPads, yeah.
But they'll have lent on a telco company or a council or something to stick a load of towers up around their building, right?
Yeah.
I just find it baffling.
It
was awful Saturday. Anything? I was like, what's score Man United getting on?
Don't know.
No.
Yeah.
Don't know.
Don't know anything.
Don't know anything.
It's really bad.
There's plenty of Wi-Fi in that stadium. It's just fans aren't allowed to use it.
I know.
Yeah, I know.
I've got the links on my phone, but they've changed.
I was trying to get
I was
trying to WhatsApp Ed the other day about an instant video thingy.
I was trying to send him videos from inside the ground
to promote the club.
And go, oh my God, Zed can't feel this while the game's going on. I can't send them, so I send them afterwards, and they're great to go out. But I want to send them during the thing.
People who can't be at the game or whatever can go, look at this. It's not
might look at it and then go and buy something, mightn't they?
It needs improving. There's no question about it. But
It's all about, you know, in my customer management days, it's all about the customer experience at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And you should make it easy for people to spend money. As we were talking about this morning on the board meeting with the brand guy, right?
Yeah.
Make it easy for people to spend money.
Yeah, that's what it is, isn't it? So there you go. Let's leave it there. We've done absolutely loads. Big
Don't
thanks to
forget.
John.
Big thanks, John. You just paid. You're just here.
Yeah, I
That
was on
wasn't
my way
even planned.
past for a coffee.
Wasn't planned. Don't forget, go and get the...
This is why I've got to come back again tomorrow.
Get the Ultimate Fan app. It's free.
In the description.
It's in the description. It's like fantasy football meets
FIFA Ultimate.
FIFA Ultimate. You get.
Is it good?
It is good. It's good. It's got a bit of fun. It's replacing Toffee picks, so we're not doing Toffee picks, but same people. So your login is there. There's a free version, there's a silver version, there's a gold version. We've got the gold version. You get loads of boss players, better chance of winning. Go and get it. It's an app. It's dead easy to use. It's fun. It's fun. It's fun.
Are you competing with each other?
We're going against each
I mean, you
other.
say
Can you have leagues and stuff? Was it
Well,
all
you're
a
in a
week by
thing,
week
you're in a
thing?
league.
We're on a
week.
points. We're on a...
So if you crap one week, you can still win next week.
Again the week after.
Then start again. and
eight
get
and a
more.
half.
That's perfect for me.
£8,500 the winner gets this week if there's one winner.
Yeah, if there's one.
If there's one
So,
winner. Tally's gone off.
Let's make it a blue, eh?
So come on, go and play it.
Go and do it
The
right now.
match previews on Patreon right now if you're on Patreon. There'll be an opposition preview tomorrow. It's exclusive to patrons. If you're not on Patreon, can't watch it. Sorry, but they're the rules.
John will be back on Patreon
On
tomorrow.
Patreon,
We've got
exclusive.
a couple of business
what are we talking about?
shows. The cryptocurrency
Yeah,
is
talk
one,
about that, yeah.
and the
Cryptocurrency.
new board, the shuffle and what
Yeah.
it means and stuff like that. So we'll be doing that tomorrow with John
there you
as
go.
well. That is us. We're out.
It's gone off. See you
There
later.
you go.
See
See you
tomorrow.
later. Subscribe.
guys.
Bye.
Subscribe. Bye.